are.
Have fun, take a deep breath.
Give them hell at the end. You like this?
Fight like hell like we do every week. You are the best here.
Brett, be affirmative. You told me to get on. Info. Ready. Ready. Go slow. Green, green, green. Lock it down, lock it down.
I'm destroyed, and I just got drove through like 6 times on the 14th. What the f*** is he thinking? That is the stupidest thing I've seen in my career. Literally.
Everything you described is accurate.
Haven't even finished the second stage yet. Half the field's wrecked.
Record. Hell yeah.
11 got it.
Proud of you there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day.
Great work, my man. Great work.
Keep putting yourself in position, we'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
10-4, great job, guys.
And welcome back to Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark, and I'm all sorts of messed up here trying to get more than one stream going at a time. But either way, thanks for joining. Welcome back to Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark, and welcome to the 2024 season. The off-season has been much needed and well-deserved. Hopefully everybody enjoyed their holidays and their winter break. We are back at it at Daytona. Sorry I did not do a Clash DraftKings. I didn't really feel that it was all that I wanted it to be, and just I didn't have my full heart into it. So I decided not to do a video for that one, and wait for Daytona 500. So here I am. Welcome back. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you are new to the channel. Well, it looks like Twitter's not working, but it looks like Rumble is. So I am trying to do a multi-stream at this point. See if it works. Actually, I think it is coming online. Let's see. Either way, I'll try to figure that out later. But we are at Daytona for the Daytona 500, the start of a new season. The truck race last night was eventful, to say the least. And then we get to today, where it has rained out. Yeah, sorry, just trying to check to see if everything's working. And it does appear to be working everywhere, except for Twitter. Either way, if it works, cool. If it doesn't, oh well. But make sure you hit me up in the chats. Let me know that you're here. Make sure that the sound is working and everything is going well. All right, let's get into this. Heck with everything else that is going on. I'll figure it out later. As we saw last year at the end of the season, Ryan Blaney took home the championship, and Ross Chastain got the checkered flag at the end of the Phoenix race out in Arizona to end the season. We won't spend a whole lot of time there. It was multiple months ago. But our optimal lineup from Phoenix, I do this every race, is I kind of break everything down from the race previous to kind of see where we were at, what we got right, what I got wrong, and those types of things. Ross Chastain started 8th, finished 1st. Did not really expect somebody that was a non-Final Four contender to take home the checkers, but Ross Chastain definitely did it. He actually almost kind of held Ryan Blaney up there a couple of times. But William Byron also in the chase did very, very well. And Kyle Larson coming in third, just didn't quite have as many points to make the optimal lineup, even though he did have 43.8 points. William Byron did have the most optimal with a third of the races he ended up in the optimal lineups last year. So very impressive. Will William Byron repeat? Will Chris Buescher also get to double digits? Or will we have a whole new set of people at the top of the heap? We'll have to wait and see. Either way, last night did end up turning out very well, even though it was an absolute cluster. I ended up taking home the first place in the Chrome Horn contest, which is probably one of my favorite contests on DraftKings. So quite happy with that. It's a great way to start the year off by hitting a $2,000 pot. So pretty happy with that. Let's see if we can repeat that tomorrow, if we run tomorrow. But if not, on Monday. Last year's Daytona 500 winner, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Will Ricky Stenhouse Jr. repeat again this year? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Excuse me. All right, let's get into it. We are at Daytona for the Daytona 500, the Great American Race, the Super Bowl of motorsports for NASCAR. We kick off the NASCAR season with the biggest race of the year. It is also the largest pot in motorsports, American motorsports. Something like it's an average of almost $700,000 per car is the purse for this weekend. Quite impressive. Either way, Daytona, if you're not familiar with it, is a super speedway. It is 2.5 miles in length. It's 31 degrees in the banking. This race is 200 laps. There are 140 Dominator points. And what that means is laps led and fast laps equal 140. So you get 0.25 points per lap that you lead, and you get 0.45 points per fast lap. So if you're the fastest car for that lap. The interesting thing about these super speedway races is we will have, 40, 50 different lead changes amongst most drivers, amongst a lot of drivers. In fast laps, you can be at the back of the pack, drafting up and getting less wind resistance, so your speed will be faster than the leader. So the leader's cutting out the wind, kind of like behind an 18-wheeler on the highway. You can kind of feel the wind blowing in different directions. If you get close enough, you almost get into that negative air pressure where you don't really have any air and actually almost will suck your car up behind the 18-wheeler without using much to little any gas. So that's kind of what's happening at these super speedways, is they end up in these large packs. So the guys in the very back of the pack actually have much more or less wind resistance, so it's much easier for them to go faster, which gives them a faster lap, blah, blah, blah. So the fast lap piece of the pie really does not play. Whereas when we get to some of these 1.5 mile type tracks, typically the leader is the fastest guy per lap, but that's not always the case. That's kind of just a general thought. So we'll have this Dominator is not really necessarily a big factor for this race. We are much more concerned with finishing position, and the biggest factor is probably going to be place differential, because you do get 1 point per place that you finish better than where you started. All right, so other super speedway style tracks. Talladega is 2.66 miles, but it's very similar in the way it races to Daytona. And Atlanta, we'll find out next week what Atlanta is going to do. Atlanta, when it first went through its transition a 1.5 2 years ago, became very much of a super speedway race. But the second race of last year, we started to see the track start to wear a little bit. Tires started to wear a little bit. We still had, sorry, my screen went blank. We still had a lot of drafting, pack racing. But as this track begins to wear, that's going to become a little bit less apparent. I don't know if we'll see it this go around, but we will definitely get a good chance to see when the trucks take the track on Friday and on Saturday when Xfinity races. So that'll be a good test to kind of see how this track is going through its changes as it starts to age. All right, so let's break these drivers down, starting with the most expensive driver, Denny Hamlin, $10,000. So I'm going to break this box down very detailed so you have an idea of what you're looking at if you are new to any of these streams. Denny Hamlin, his price on DraftKings is $10,000. Now, in DraftKings, you get to pick 6 drivers, and you have a total of $50,000 of salary cap to use. So you can't just go pick the 6 highest priced drivers. Number one, that probably wouldn't work well unless they all were starting towards the rear of the field. Denny Hamlin starting 8th is going to kind of have to need to lead some laps and win to really be somebody that may make the optimal lineup. Sorry, excuse me. But Denny Hamlin, $10,000 is his price tag. The next line down here, Denny Hamlin is starting 8th. They got their qualifying positions from the dual race, which was held on Thursday evening. And Denny Hamlin, what did he finish? Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 4th place in his dual race. So the inside lane was set by the first race in the dual, and the second race set the outside or the even numbers. So Denny Hamlin was in the second race and finished 4th. So that gives him the 8th starting spot. I think that's how that works. I know that's how it works. I'm just making sure that I've got the right number there for him. But they did do a practice on Friday after the duels. Their practice today got canceled, so they only had one practice. Denny Hamlin was first in that practice with 22 laps of practice. He did have he was 10th in a 10-lap consecutive average, which is next here, and what that indicates is he ran 10 consecutive laps without coming in to make a pit stop or make adjustments to his car during practice, and he was 10th in that grouping. Practice at super speedways, really the only thing is it's going to show is it really doesn't show much because of this, like I was saying, the draft. So I've got the practice speeds in here. They'll become much more useful after we get past Atlanta. But I still like to list this in here if they end up having a practice. So it is one piece of the pie that we look at when we're setting up our drivers for the DraftKings. The next line down here are the last 5 races at the track. So this is the last 5 races at Daytona. So they ran here twice last year in I call it the fall race, but it was late summer. And then, of course, the Daytona 500, which was in February last year. Same thing for 2022 and the second race of 2021. Oh, I did not fix this. So I knew I was going to mess up something. First video back since November of last year. So a little rusty. I did not fix the where they finished at the last race at Daytona. So we'll just skip over that. But Denny Hamlin does have 3 wins here at Daytona, all of them Daytona 500s. He has raced here a total of 36 times. That includes all points paying races. They used to run the Clash here. So I did not include that, or when they ran some road courses here, I did not include that. This is just 36 points paying oval super speedway races. 3 wins, 11 top 5s. So the right here is the top 5s. He's got 11 top 5s, 12 top 10s, 21 top 20s, a 17.06 average finishing spot. So he's starting in 8th. Like I was saying over here at the bottom, the last 5 races here at Daytona, Denny Hamlin has only 2 top 20s, no top 10s, no top 5s, a 15.7 DraftKings average, and he has a 3.8 average finish over the last 5 races here at Daytona. So starting in 8th, historically over the last 5 races, that's not real good for place differential. So I do have some ownership in Denny Hamlin because he is really, really good at Daytona and super speedway races. But what have you done for me lately here at Daytona? Not a whole lot for Denny. I have him ranked 12th on my power ranking. So this top left corner here is my power ranking or ranking system. This takes into account the last 5 races here, the last 3 races at all super speedways or similar style tracks, what they've done in practice, where they're starting, because the place differential, and I'll look a little bit of the past history, and I'll look at the last 10 races. So the trend line is kind of what I look at when they're when I'm figuring out this ranking system of 12th. I've got about 15 to 20% ownership in Denny Hamlin. Now I run approximately 40 different lineups. So what this is saying is, 40 different lineups, 20%. I have probably Denny in 7 to 8 lineups out of the 40. So that kind of gives you a little indication. I don't ever break down just what my lineups are exactly, because then some people would just copy them and we would just split whatever spot we were in, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So that kind of takes the fun out of it. All right. Either way, next in line here is Ryan Blaney, our 2023 NASCAR Cup champion, $9,800. He is starting 32nd. He took a vicious hit in his dual race. I think they recorded 55 G-forces on his head and neck restraint, which is just, 55 Gs is a lot. I'm just glad they have really taken into account the safety aspect for these cars, because last year I think he had a wreck here at Daytona that recorded a 70 G forces on impact. If you happen to have seen the Netflix special, they talk about that big hit where you actually see the wall just kind of move in about 6 inches to a foot and then come back out. And that's a concrete steel wall that he hits that when it does that. So massive impact for Ryan Blaney on Thursday. He says he's fine. He's not real happy with how the people were running in that race, and they were pushing in places they shouldn't be pushing, which ended up causing him to get turned and put into the wall. So either way, he's going to start 32nd, which is pretty far back for somebody who does do really well here at Daytona. He does have 1 win in the last 5 races here at Daytona, 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 29.7 Draftkings average, and a 12.8 average finish. All that's really, really good. We can look at his total: 17 starts, 4 top 10s, 4 top 5s, and 7 top 10s. Ryan Blaney is really, really good here. He's going to be one of the favorites, other than he's starting in 32nd. But for DraftKings purposes, that works out really, really well. And I expect him to probably be pretty heavily owned because of his starting spot and his ability to work really well in the draft. I do have him ranking as first, and I've got 50 to 55% ownership. So I'm a little bit over 20 times out of the 40 lineups I have Ryan Blaney in it. I really do like where Ryan Blaney sits. So next in line here, Kyle Busch, the guy who kind of helped wreck Ryan Blaney. Next in line here at $9,700, starting 34th. I'm not really going to cover a whole lot of these practice times and where they're at. It's here for you guys to use if you want to. But I'm not, because it really doesn't matter a whole lot, but it's in there. Kyle Busch in the last 5 races here at Daytona does not have a top 5, but 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 30.9 DraftKings average, which is so far the best on the board, and a 15.4 average finish. And starting 34th for Kyle Busch, who is a past Cup champion, has never won the Daytona 500 before. And he has won a Daytona race, but he's never won a Daytona 500. Starting 34th, a ton of place differential here for Kyle Busch. So I definitely like Kyle coming from the back here almost as much as I like Ryan Blaney. I think Ryan Blaney's a little bit better at super speedway racing, and coming off of his Cup championship last year, I give him the nod a little bit more to Ryan Blaney than Kyle Busch, but Kyle Busch is also a really, really good pick. He's also going to be very heavily owned. So I have him 2 on my rankings and 35 to 40% ownership. So these are kind of 2 of my heavy hitters, and they're probably going to be pretty heavily owned. Next in here, Kyle Larson at 9,500. Kyle Larson starting 17th. And as you can see down here, out of the last 5 races here at Daytona, he has 1 top 20. No top 10s, no top 5s. Kyle always seems to run really, really well at Talladega and Daytona, but just always seems to end up in some type of incident or accident towards the end of these races. As you can see, Kyle Larson has a negative 7.7 DraftKings average at these races. In the last 5 races at Daytona, a 27th place average finish. If he can just finish one of these races, he's usually, when he gets wrecked, he's typically in the top 5. So if he can just hold serve and stay in the top 5, he'll have good finishes. Question is, when will that happen? I mean, out of his 19 total starts here at Daytona in the Cup Series, he's only got 4 top 10s. He doesn't have any top 5s. This is a guy that literally is one of the, some say, the best race car drivers in the world right now. And he can't seem to finish off Daytonas. Will this be his year? Maybe. We'll see. Statistically, no. Hopefully, as you can see, I am a Kyle Larson fan. But I also know that he just is not very good at Daytona and Talladega style tracks. I've got 11 on the ranking systems, and I've got a 15 to 20% ownership in him. It's a coin flip. So Chase Elliott, next in line here, 9,400. Starting 5th. So we're starting a little bit higher up. This is the highest up person we've gotten to yet. And as we get towards the end of this video, on the back half of it, we'll kind of look at statistically where the most points come from. And most of the time, it's not people starting in the top 10. That's why I don't have a whole lot of ownership of Chase Elliott starting in 5th. Because even if he moves up to even first place, it's only 4 place differential points, and it's like 40 points. So it's like 44 points. And if you don't really, you'll lead a lap, but that's what, 0.25 points. Somebody who's coming from, like a Kyle Busch coming from 34th and finishes 3rd, well, that's 31 points plus his 37 that he'll get for the finish. I mean, right there, 60 some odd points. So a Kyle Busch will just beat Chase Elliott by 20 points, 25 points, just on place differential, not including any of the fast laps or laps led. So starting up front just does not pay well for DraftKings. So keep that in mind when you're setting your lineups. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I appreciate anybody that's tuning in, either on YouTube or Rumble, and I don't think Twitter's working. So as the year progresses, I'm going to still try to get to where all 3 of those streams work. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and join me in the chat. Let me know, who do you like for this weekend at Daytona, and do you think we'll race tomorrow, or will it be Monday? Joey Logano, 9,200. He did have the fastest time in qualifying, so single car qualifying. He did get the pole, so he gets a start from the pole regardless of where he finished in the duels. Same thing with Michael McDowell, who finished outside pole. We'll get to him in a moment. $9,200, but as I've been talking, starting up front just does not do well for DraftKings. So I don't have a whole lot of ownership in Joey Logano. Joey Logano is really good at super speedway racing, other than he tends to get into wrecks towards the end. But as you can see, he does have 1 win here in his 30 total starts. In the last 5 races, he's got 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s, 3 top 20s, a 35.1 DraftKings average, and a 12.8 average finish. So pretty good average finish, but I mean, if he finishes 10th and starts first, well, he's going to lose 9 points right out of the gate. So I just don't have a whole lot of interest in taking people that are starting in the top 10. You can do whatever you would like, but I don't particularly like taking guys starting in the top 10. So Joey Logano is kind of out. He could be somebody to watch. He might be interesting. He is pretty aggressive at these super speedways, which has a tendency to maybe backfire. But either way, that's Joey Logano. Next in line here, Brad Keselowski. Really good super speedway racer, much better at Talladega, but does have 1 win at his 29 total starts here at Daytona. Starting 16th, we've got some place differential movement for Brad here. The Fords seem to be pretty quick, at least in qualifying, and in the second duel, they seem to line up pretty well with each other and made their way to the front. So when you're pairing up drivers, that is something that I do tend to look at a little bit, is who historically has run well in packs together, and typically they are the same manufacturer, sometimes even the same team, like Brad and Joey. So Brad owns part of RFK Racing, and Joey Logano drives for Penske. Well, they used to both drive for Penske, and when they both drove for Penske, a lot of times they would be glued to each other's bumpers because they knew they could trust each other, and one or the other typically wouldn't wreck them until the end of the race. And that's typically what either Brad or Joey did, was they would wreck each other at the end of the race. But yeah, definitely keep an eye out for Brad and Joey. They both are very good super speedway racers. Brad in the last 5 races at Daytona has 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, a 20.9 DraftKings average, and a 20.4 average finish. And he's starting 16th, so there is a little bit of place differential movement possible here with Brad. I've got him in 20 to 25% of my lineups. He is still looking to get his first win as a new owner or new partner of RFK Racing, and he also has not won since he left Penske. So keep that in mind. He's looking for that first win. Speaking of teammates and manufacturing loyalty, Chris Buescher, who drives for RFK and Brad Keselowski. Chris Buescher did win 3 times last year, 8,800. He is starting 19th. So he is starting pretty close together with Brad. And because they are teammates and run the same manufacturer, you could see Chris and Brad run together very closely. In fact, Brad helped push Chris Buescher to the win at the second Daytona race last year. So keep that in mind. Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski run well together. They're starting close to each other. They typically get themselves to the front together. So in the last 5 races at Daytona, Chris Buescher does have that 1 win from the last time we were here. 3 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s. Really good stats. 36.0 DraftKings average, which, I mean, that's beating Joey Logano, and I think that might be the highest DraftKings average we've seen so far. And he's got a 10th place average finish. So really, really good stats here for Chris Buescher. Definitely keep an eye on, I mean, all 3 of these guys together. If you were looking to group some drivers together other than Joey Logano starting first, I do like the Brad and Chris combo. William Byron, 8,700, starting 18th. So if you're looking to possibly team William Byron up with somebody, somebody from Hendrick Motorsports or another Chevy driver would be somebody to look at. Starting in 18th, William Byron's kind of got the same problem as Kyle Larson, and I think that's a lot of times they are typically running together and running well together at the end of these super speedway races, and they end up getting into trouble together. So as you can see, William Byron has a 1.1 DraftKings average and even a worse average finish of 30.4 with only 1 top 10, 1 top 20 in the last 5 starts at Daytona. Starting 18th, I've got a little bit of ownership in William Byron at 15 to 20%. Yeah, I guess the thing is he needs to stay away from Larson, and Larson needs to stay away from Byron, because the two of them worked well together until they ended up getting wrecked together. So typically it's not either one of their faults. It's usually something that's happened in front of them, and they just happen to get collected up in it. Bubba Wallace, 8,500, starting 24th. Bubba Wallace this is probably one of Bubba's best tracks, number one. Number 2, he's really good at super speedway racing. And number 3, he's coming off the best year he had in Cup Series last year. So definitely keep an eye on Bubba Wallace, driving for 2311 Racing in a Toyota. The Toyota seemed to be really, really fast. And they tend to work really well together. So definitely keep an eye on Bubba Wallace. He is somebody that I'd have a decent amount of ownership, 20-25%. Starting 24th, got some decent place differential here. And if we look at his stats, I mean, Chris Buescher had a 36.0 DraftKings average. Bubba Wallace is a 44.5. That is the highest that we've seen so far, and it might be the highest that we've got in the race. 9.6 average finish. In the last 5 races, he's finished all of them in the top 20. 2 of the 5 that he's finished in the top 10 and top 5. And I think he was second place in both of those top 5 finishes. So definitely keep an eye on Bubba Wallace. Starting 24th, there's place differential potential here with Bubba. Next in line here, Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell did end up winning the second duel, which put him on the number 4 starting spot. And once again, I beat this horse to death. I don't like anybody starting in the top 5. Even if they do happen to win, it just doesn't. There's just not enough points out there compared to somebody who, like a Bubba Wallace, starting 24th. If they come up and finish 3rd, that's 21 points of place differential. Christopher's only going to get 3 if he wins the race. So it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you've got other options that are starting further in the back. And Christopher Bell has a 24.4 average finish, which isn't that great. And only a 5.5 DraftKings average. 1 top 10, 1 top 5, 2 top 20s. Statistically, Christopher Bell is not great at super speedways. He did get that win on Thursday, but it really doesn't do much good for us. Martin Truex Jr., another one who's just had bad luck in the super speedway races. He's never won a super speedway race. Now, here's an interesting thing. If this race gets moved to Monday, Martin Truex Jr., I think, is like 40%. I don't know the exact percentage, but it's up there. That if a race gets moved to a Monday, Martin Truex Jr. becomes a favorite. It doesn't matter. He just seems to run so much better on a Monday. Maybe not necessarily Daytona, but he is the Monday closer. So definitely keep an eye on Martin Truex Jr. He is 20-1, so you could put a $5 bet on Martin Truex Jr. and win 100. I don't typically do much betting, but because there is the possibility of this thing being rained out till Monday, I mean, just for giggles, I put $5 on Martin Truex Jr. to win $100. That's if he wins. And if he does win, and you do have him in your lineup, starting 27th, that's a pretty good place differential upswing for Martin Truex Jr. I've got 35 to 40% ownership. He comes in 6th on my ranking systems. He does have 1 top 10, 3 top 20, so he's not awful at these plate or super speedway style races. He just has never won one. He typically runs towards the front most of the time. So maybe Martin Truex Jr. can finally get his first super speedway win on a Monday. If they happen to race on a Monday, they could race tomorrow. Next in line here, Ross Chastain, $8,100, starting 21st. So a little bit of place differential here for Ross Chastain, kind of starting in the middle of the field since there's 40 drivers that are starting the race. He's got a 23.6 average finish over the last 5 races, a 20.4 DraftKings average, 1 top 10, 3 top 20s. He does have a super speedway win at Talladega sometime in the last 4 races. I think it may have been in the last, not 23, but 2022. He may have gotten a win. It was either that or it was the spring of 23. I can't remember. But either way, Ross does have a win at super speedway. Say that 3 times real fast. I don't mind it. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It does have the new paint scheme. Got that one from when complete mind blank. Either way, he's now got the Busch Light paint scheme. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. next in line here, the winner of the Daytona 500 last year, $8,000. Starting 35th. He was involved in the incident with Ryan Blaney, so he gets to start from the rear. And as you can see, he's got a 21st place average finish. He did have the win at the Daytona 500 last year. He's got a total of 2 wins here at Daytona. I mean, starting 35th, there's only 4 other guys that are starting worse than you. So, with that being said, there's almost nowhere to go but up for Ricky Stenhouse Jr., so I definitely have a decent amount of ownership, 25 to 30%. He is 14th in my ranking system. Next in line here, Tyler Reddick, 7,800, who won the first duel. Tyler Reddick does okay at these type of tracks, but starting third, I just don't have any interest. Like I said, anybody in the top 10, I don't have a whole lot of interest. Anybody starting in the top 5, I really have no interest. So I have faded completely off of Tyler Reddick, even though it's a really cool paint scheme for him with the Nasty Beast hard iced tea from Monster. But other than a really cool paint scheme, and he got the win on Thursday, I don't love it. So do what you want with it. I'm not running much, or I'm not running any of Tyler Reddick. In fact, I'm not running anybody in the top 5. And Jimmy Johnson is not starting second. He is starting 20 something. I don't even have that up right now. I need to find that though. Hold on. It's not that one. It is. All right, let's see. Where is he? Jimmy Johnson starting 23rd. So put a 3 there. Jimmy Johnson starting 23rd. Had to race his way. 7-time champion in the Cup Series. And because he had no points to go on from last year, he's not racing a chartered car, which there's 36 total chartered cars. Even though he's an owner of 2 chartered cars, this car is not chartered. So without having that charter and having more people qualifying for the Daytona 500 than spots available, Jimmy had to race his way in. Got in. He's there. We'll start 23rd. He's only got 1 start in the last 5 races here at Daytona because he did retire and went Indy racing and has now back. So we don't have a whole lot of stats here, even though he does have 3 wins here in the past out of his 39 total starts. 12 top 5, 16 top 20s, 22 out of 39 top 20s. So starting 23rd, there's some place differential here. I do have 25% ownership in Jimmy Johnson. So take that for what it's worth. All right. If you're just joining in, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and leave me a note in the chat. What do you think about having Jimmy Johnson back in the field? Do you think he'll end up having a decent finish, or do you think he should just stay retired? Next in line here, Eric Jones, who actually runs for Jimmy Johnson, starting 11th. Eric he's won here at Daytona before. He's got a 22.6 average finish, starting 11th. I mean, right on that outside spot that I don't take much ownership in these guys. So starting 11th really doesn't help me feel comfortable taking him. I do have him in a few lineups, but it's not many. Yeah, starting 11th, yeah, it's 1 spot better than where I would even not look at taking somebody. So do what you want. I'm running him 5 to 10%. Eric Jones is pretty decent on super speedway races. Like I said, he does have 1 win here at Daytona, 2 top 5s, 3 top 10, 7 top 20s out of his 14 total starts. In the last 5 races, he's got a 22.6 average finish with 3 top 20s, no top 10. So, I mean, if we go off his averages, even with just 3 top 20s and no top 10s, that's worse than where you're starting. So his average finish in the last 5 races is not any better than where he's starting. So I don't love it. Even though Daytona is such a crapshoot, it really is. Winning Draftkings at these super speedways, there is some thought process and some statistics go into it, but it's still anybody can win these races. So betting on Daytona 500, it's even more of a shot in the dark. Next in line here, Alex Bowman, 7,500, starting 7th. We're starting in the top 10, so I don't have a whole lot of interest in them. They just have 11.4 average finish over the last 5 races. That's pretty good. 35.3 Draftkings average, 1 top 5, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s. All right. Yeah, but starting in the top 10, once again, it's just no place differential, and there's just not enough finishing positions to finish. Once again, Jimmy Johnson finishes 5th and Alex Bowman finishes 4th. Jimmy Johnson's going to have 25 more points than Alex Bowman. So, not really interested. Ty Gibbs starting 15th. I'm telling you, Ty Gibbs is knocking on the door. He's actually banging on the door for a win at this point. He should have had the win at the Clash in LA until Joe Logano rooted him up and kind of sent him packing towards the back. He was running really, really well in the dual race earlier on Thursday and ended up getting... he didn't really get mixed up, but he just kind of faded towards the back. But Ty Gibbs, if he has a win in the first 10 weeks, I'll be shocked and amazed. He is really starting to be a force to be reckoned with and somebody to watch out for. So I think Ty Gibbs easily gets a win, makes the playoffs this year. He may even get 2 wins before this is all said and done this year. So keep an eye on Ty Gibbs. I don't think he'll have a sophomore slump. I think he's going to have a sophomore really good season. So next in line here, Austin Dillon, starting 33rd. Lots of place differential here for Austin Dillon. He is a 2-time winner here at Daytona. He has 1 win in the last 5 races here. 22.0 average finish, 26.9 DraftKings average, 1 top 5, 1 top 10, 2 top 20s. Starting 33rd, that's a really good place differential spot to take Austin Dillon. And once again, I'm not sure I've mentioned this, but I'm not really concerned on pricing. Because like I said, you get $50,000 for 6 drivers. Well, the most expensive person's $10,000. So, once we get into this grouping, you could take 6 drivers in the 7,000 range, and you're not going to max out. In fact, when we get towards the end of this, I'll show you that most of the time you don't want to spend all the money. Michael McDowell next in line here, who is a Daytona 500 winner. 2021, Michael McDowell won? Yeah, spring of 21, Michael McDowell won the Daytona 500. So he is a one-time winner here, but in the last 5 races since then, he's got 1 top 10, 2 top 20s, a 24th place average finish. Starting outside pole, though. Not to beat a dead horse here, I'm not taking anybody in the top 5 or top 10. So, as much as I'd like to see Michael McDowell do well, there's just no point in taking him in DraftKings because there's no upside. Next in line here, Chase Briscoe, starting in middle of the field, starting in 20th. So we've got a little bit of place differential here with Chase Briscoe. The Fords run really well on super speedways. They work really well together. He is driving a Ford. He's not the best at super speedway racing. He's not the worst. It's a coin flip. I've got him in 15 to 20% of my lineups. He is 27th on my ranking system. So I'd sprinkle him in a little bit, but I don't have a whole lot of ownership in him. Austin Cindric, a Daytona 500 winner, also 2022 Austin Cindric won here at Daytona. He's got 16th place average finish, 24 DraftKings points, 2 top 5, 2 top 10, 2 top 20s with that 1 win. Starting in 6th though, so starting too far up. I don't like it. Not going to beat the dead horse. It's already dead. Daniel Suarez, 6,900, starting 13th. Right on that outside edge of, I don't really love taking it. I've got him in 5 to 10% of my lineups. But not a whole lot. I sprinkled them in, but I I don't like it. 17.8 average finish. He's decent at super speedways. Never won a race here at Daytona. Yeah. Don't love the Daniel Suarez pick. Ryan Preece, 6,800, who is a teammate with Chase Briscoe. So if Chase is looking for a drafting partner, Ryan Preece will be around, starting in 25th. 3 total starts in the last 5 races. He's got 1 top 5, 1 top 10, 1 top 20, a 24th place average finish. So not bad, not great. I don't know what Stewart-Haas Racing's what they're gonna look like this year. They've got some new faces. I mean, Chase Briscoe is now the old timey veteran. He has only been with the company for 3 years. So Ryan Preece, this will be his 2nd year with SHR. Josh Berry is new to the team, and Noah Gregson's new to the team. So kind of a reset over at SHR. I'm not sure what to make of them quite yet. Next in line here, Josh Berry, another SHR driver, starting 30th. 6,600. Josh ran the Xfinity races at Talladega and Daytona fairly well, pretty consistent. He does have 1 start here, but it was in... I don't know who he started for. I don't think he started for Chase Elliott. I think Chase Elliott was back for this race. So I can't remember who he substituted for. It may have been the 48. I can't remember offhand. But Josh Berry did run this race last year, or the 2nd race at Daytona, and finished 22nd. Starting 30th, there's some place differential upside here with Josh Berry. 6,600, he could easily fit in pretty much any of your lineups. I've got him in 20-25%. I'll take a shot on Josh Berry here at Daytona to get himself in the top 10 or top 5 and potentially be there for the optimal lineup. David Reagan, who does have a win here at Daytona, an old wily veteran, starting 40th. He has nowhere to go but up. So pretty much every position that David Reagan can finish better is a point. And if he can happen to get himself into a top 10, I mean, that's like 70 points. Just that alone. So I definitely have some interest in David Reagan starting in 40th. In fact, I've got him in 20-25% of my lineups. He does have a win here in the past. I mean, he's got 30 total starts here at Daytona with 4 top 5s, 8 top 10s, 16 top 20s. He finished the last 2 races. He's finished both of them in the top 10. So I do like some David Reagan. John Hunter Nemechek. Welcome back to the Cup Series, Mr. Nemechek. He's got 2 total starts at Daytona in the Cup Series and has 1 top 5, 2 top 10. So he ran really well in Daytona and Talladega and the Cup, or the Xfinity and Truck Series when he stepped backwards from the Cup Series a couple years ago. But he's back, driving that 42 car for Legacy Motor Club. Starting 10th, though, so not a whole lot of interest there. Noah Gragson was involved in an altercation in his duel, so he will be relegated to start 38th. So his loss is potentially our gain. Noah Gragson, welcome back to him after his short suspension for saying naughty things on social media. I think he's fixed that, and he's back, starting 38th. He finished 20th on average the last 3 starts at super speedways in the Cup Series. 1 top 10, 1 top 5, 1 top 20. I mean, starting 38th, I mean, kind of sitting there like David Reagan. There's nowhere to go really but up. So Noah knows how to race in these super speedway races. The problem is he's a little aggressive. That may be being nice. He's a lot aggressive. So if he can just bide his time, not get involved in any of the wrecks, be there at the end, finish in 15th, that's going to be a win for Draftkings for me. I've got him in 15-20% of my lineups. AJ Allmendinger ended up in the top 10 last year in this race. $6,200 starting 28th. We've got some place differential here with AJ. He's not running a full-time schedule in this 16 car. He is running a full time schedule in the Xfinity series this year. So this is one of the races that he's going to just be around for. So hopefully AJ can get himself a decent finish. And starting 28th, I will take that. Corey LaJoy, 5,500. Almost got himself a truck win last night. Almost pushed his teammate to a win also, but ended up in the last lap incident and then didn't get finished very well. But Corey LaJoy always seems to run really well at super speedways, especially next week at Atlanta. But in the last 5 races here at Daytona, he's got 4 top 20s and 1 top 10. 17.4 average finish, 37.8 Draftkings average. I mean, that's really good for somebody who's priced at $5,500. So I do like some Corey LaJoy. 19th in my ranking system, 20-25% ownership. Next in line here, Carson Hocevar. Welcome, rookie. He's not really a rookie, though. He did run like 8 or 9 races last year in the Cup Series. But he is going to be full-time in that 77 car. That 77 car really struggled last year, but Spire got a lot of money and a huge influx of cash. And they are partnered with Andretti, so I think we'll see some changes with the 7 and the 77. So definitely keep an eye on Carson, except for the fact he's starting in 9th. I'm not taking him in DraftKings, but he's going to be fun to watch during this race, and he's going to be fun to watch throughout the year. He and Corey LaJoy both coming out of Spire are going to be something to watch this year. Zane Smith at 5,800, starting 14th. One start here last year, and he finished 13th. So starting 14th, just not a whole lot of wiggle room for Zane here, especially not being a full-time, not being in a full-time ride this year. So I don't know. Actually, Zane is a full-time ride. I think Spire bought this ride. I think this was the 78, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So all 3 of these are teammates. So Zane Smith is running a full-time. I'm sorry. Until I get a couple races under my belt and figure out who's in what, who's full-time and who's not. But Zane Smith is the other Spire car. As you can see, the 7s are all the same. So Zane Smith full-time in the Spire car. As you can see, I mean, the Spire cars are qualified well. 9th, 14th, and 29th for Corey LaJoy, but he was involved in one of those incidents from the duels. Justin Haley in the Rick Ware car, who used to drive for Colleague last year, starting 22nd. That's a really good starting spot for this 51 car that was bottom of the barrel last year. So hopefully Justin Haley and Rick Ware can really get this 51 car at least running top 25. If they can get a top 25 for an average for this year, that's going to be a really good year for Justin Haley and Rick Ware. So I'm pulling for the little underdog team of the 51. Starting 22nd, I don't love the play here. Justin Haley is a Cup champion, or Cup winner here at Daytona. He also has, I think, 3 Xfinity Daytona wins or Super Speedway wins. So Justin Haley knows how to get these races finished and run well. Starting 22nd, and as much as I'm pulling for the 51 to have good races, I need to see something before I start putting a whole lot of dollars, meaning that I start putting him in lineups. So keep an eye on Justin Haley. I think it'll be fun to watch him run this year. Kraz Garala, starting 26, had to race his way in. Paul Moss, welcome back, buddy. I think JJ should have stayed retired. Welcome back. I mean, I agree. I think JJ should have stayed retired. But it is kind of fun to have Jimmy Johnson around from time to time. At least he's not running a full-time gig, but it'll be interesting to see what he can do with that Legacy Motor Club. And now being in a Toyota, it should be fun. So welcome back, Paul. Hopefully you had a good holiday and are having a good winter. Casarella, though, starting 26. And this is a front row car, so this is the same team that Michael McDowell and Todd Gillen are racing in, so he's going to have some partners here. I just don't trust Kaz Grala, especially starting 26. I'm not sure there's a whole lot of upside other than anything's possible at these tracks. So I've got a few ownerships because there is some place differential here, but not a whole lot for Kaz. Todd Gillen, who is teammates with Kaz Grala, and our outside pole center Michael McDowell, $5,500 starting 31st. We have some place differential potential here with Todd Gillen. But his average finishes are only a 28.8. 13.1 DraftKings average. No top 20s. But I don't know. Be there at the end. Don't get collected in the big one. And you end up having a pretty good DraftKings day at least. I've got him in 10 to 15%. I don't have a ton of ownership in Todd Gillen. Harrison Burton, who, oh man, this poor kid, qualified really well, starting 12th. Somebody who has got to have a good year this year, or probably will have to take the route of John Hunter Nemechek and go back to trucks or Xfinity, and then potentially try to get back into Cup at some point. If he doesn't have a good year this year, I don't know if he's going to be around next year, at least in the Cup Series. So, which is a shame. Harrison Burton's a good kid. His dad's Jeff Burton. So hopefully Harrison can figure it out sooner than later and get that 21 car head in the right direction. I mean, they qualified well, so we'll see. Daniel Hemrick, $5,300. He has an average finish of 19th out of the last 5 races. He's only run 2 of those. Starting 37th, he's kind of nowhere to go but up here. Driving that 31 car that Justin Haley drove last year, coming from Colleague, Chevy. Yeah, I mean, Daniel Hemrick just keeps that car clean, keeps it on the track, keeps it out of the big one. 37, there's nowhere to go but up, really. So, I definitely like some Daniel Hemrick starting 37th. Not too heavy on him, 15 to 20%. Anthony Alfredo starting 39th. And I love how the 62 car just didn't put a picture of their car in NASCAR.com, so I had to go and find this one on social media, but either way. $5,200 starting 39th. Once again, nowhere to go but up. So kind of the same ownership as Daniel Hemrick. Not full-time, not driving this car full-time. This car's not even full-time. So not a chartered team. They had to race their way in. Good, congratulations on them. But I got some ownership in case all heck breaks loose in front of him and he's able to get through it. So Riley Herbst, who he's pretty good on super speedways. He's kind of in the same boat as all these guys. You literally potentially could take these last 3 guys and then sprinkle them in with Ryan Blaney. Who else was starting way back in the back? That was Kyle Busch, and I don't know. I mean, those 5 with these 3 is probably a decent combination to look at, to be honest, because these guys could easily just fall back from the main pack, not get lapped, run nose to tail, because they're starting 36th, 37th, 39th. And who was starting 40th? Who was that? It was Noah and David Reagan, and Orion Blaney. Put that combination together, and my bet is that you probably end up cashing out. I'm not sure if you win, but I mean it's possible. These Daytona and Talladega Super Speedway races are literally crapshoots. But either way, so this is kind of how I've broken everything down. Ryan Blaney's probably my top pick. Kyle Busch is my second pick. I like the Bubba Wallace play, and I like the Chris Buescher play. Those are kind of my highest owned guys. Other people that I like with good place differential that are more notable names: Martin Truex Jr., Brett Keselowski, William Byron, AJ Allmendinger. Value picks: the Josh Berry, David Reagan, Daniel Hemrick, Anthony Alfredo. Like I said, you could literally pair up Reagan, Hemrick, Alfredo, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, and Noah Gragson, or yeah, that probably is going to be a pretty darn good lineup if they stay clean. Even if they don't, even if they just finish the race, it'll end up being decent. So just something to kind of take a look at. All right. So what I've done in the offseason, and I was starting to do this a little bit at the end of last year, I just wasn't sharing all of this information kind of this way, is I looked at, so these are the last 5 races at, I know this is might be a little wonky to kind of look at. These are the last 5 races at Daytona. So what we've got here is okay, so the fall race from last year, people that started in the top 5 that finished in the top 15 in Draftkings points. I know that may sound a little bit wonky, but there was only one driver that started in the top 5 that finished in the top 15 in Draftkings points. People who started 6th through 10th, once again, there was only one driver that finished in the top 15 of all the points for the 40 drivers. Then, starting between 11th and 20th starting spots, there were 4 drivers. Starting 21st through 30th, there were 5 drivers. Starting 31st or worse, there were 4 drivers. Now, the 2 drivers that started on the front row, only one of the 2 finished top 15 in DraftKings points. The 15-point total average was 40.1, with an average starting spot of 22.7 for those 15 drivers that finished in the top 15 in points. I'm not sure if that makes sense to you or not. Let's see if I can find this sheet that might show it a little better. All right, here we go. All right, so what I did was, yeah, over here, and it's kind of small. Let me see if I can zoom in. Where is zoom? Oh, it's right here. Let's go 100%. All right, so over here. So Corey LaJoie was the highest points getter from the fall race of 2023. He had 65.05 points. He started 37th, finished 10th. Alex Bowman 31st, the 6th, whatever. So that's the top 6 drivers for points. So I want to know the top 15. So what I did was I got their points, their starting positions, their finishing positions, and that gave me this. So then I started to look, okay, were they a pole sitter or outside pole sitter? Well, Eric Almirola was the outside pole sitter, still finished in the top 15 in points. Okay. Then everybody else. Chase Briscoe was the pole sitter, ended up finishing 30th. And as you can see, he only got 1.1 points. So even with Eric Almirola starting in 2nd, finishing 3rd, having a great race, by all accounts, in the world of racing, that's a great race. 42.55 points. All these other guys beat him. 37th to 10th, 65.5. 23 points better. So, but either way, that's not really why I was showing this. This is what I'm looking at when I'm coming up with this sheet. So then I took all 5 of these races from Daytona, the last 5 races, and I took the averages. So the most you get is 1.4 drivers starting in the top 5, finishing in the top 15 in points. And typically it's the top 15 in points that you need to at least have most of those guys in your lineups to make money in DraftKings. Starting 6th through 10th, it's a little bit better. It's 1.6. Well, starting 11th through 20th is 3. If you pick drivers starting 21st to 30th, half of them made the top 15. 31st or worse starting spot, 4 of them. So 9 drivers out of the 15 started 21st or worse. So that kind of gives you an idea. The average starting spot was 22nd. So then what I did was I took the top 6 through 10, 11 through 20 of the people for this race tomorrow. And then I took my ranking system and said, all right, who is the best ranked 1 through 5? Well, 13th, Chase Elliott. Oops. 6 through 10, who has the best rank? Denny Hamlin. 11 through 20th, who are the top 2? Actually, I could probably look at the top 3. So, by my ranking system, Chris Buescher, Brad Kay, William Byron. Those are my targets. 21st through 30th, I didn't really sort that by rank. I sorted it by starting position. But I mean, 21 through 30, I mean, heck, half of these guys typically make it in the top 15. I don't know. Hopefully this makes sense. I'm not sure if this is clear enough. But once I started doing this towards the end of last year, I was cashing well and above what I was putting in week after week. The last 6 weeks I cashed in large-scale tournaments. Then 31 through 38, I did fix that one right. Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch. Of course, 32nd, 34th. But I mean, literally everybody but Todd Gillen. I mean, Noah Gragson is 22nd on my ranking system, starting 38th. Literally, you could just mix and match any of these guys, and you're probably going to end up having a pretty good day. So now we look at optimal lineups from the fall of 2023. Well, it's very similar to what I just showed you over here. Top 6 actually ended up being the top 6 optimal lineup. So that's kind of how this whole thing ends up kind of working out and why I was looking at it. But it seems to be working not necessarily just on super speedways, but it's working on the short tracks. It's working on the road courses. So I'll be sharing that each week and breaking it down. That'll be towards this end. But the one thing I wanted to show you over here is even the fall race of Daytona last year, $600 left over after you put these 6 drivers together. You only spent $49,400, which is actually super high. If we look at the Daytona 500 race from last year, $13,000 left over on your salary cap. Only one person started in the top 10. Up here, nobody started in the top 10 that made the optimal lineup. Down here, it's 1, 2, 3 guys that started 31st or worst. And the 2 guys that started in the 20s were 24th and 29th. So nobody in the 11 through 20 spot, and only one person in the top 10. Same thing, Daytona 500, or the fall race, or the second race of 2022. Nobody, the best starting spot was 21st. Austin Dillon finished first. $18,800. I mean, look at these salaries, $5,300, $4,600, $45,000, $7,000, $47,000, $51,000. They're all values. Nothing over $7,000 spent on a driver had the optimal lineup. Then we look at the spring, or the Daytona 500 from 2022, 38th, 34th, 33rd, 16th. Okay, we have two top 10s, one top 5 starter. $4,100 still left over. So don't be afraid to leave a ton of money on the table. It's literally, you can run anybody in any lineup for Daytona, Talladega, and Atlanta. Atlanta may get a little tricky. We'll have to see what happens this spring race. I think that track's going to start to change more and more as it begins to wear. But either way, we have to go into it thinking that it's going to be a super speedway style race. Big pack drafts. So that's kind of how your lineup construction needs to work. Is you kind of need to work from the worst qualifying spots to the best. And all these cars are so equally matched. Anybody in this race could win this race tomorrow, or if we go to Monday. Once again, if we go to Monday, I like Martin Truex Jr. Either way, that's our breakdown for this week. Welcome back. 1 week down, 35 more to go. Good luck. Hopefully somebody takes home in the bag. I'll take a second. Somebody else watching this video can take home the bag. Other than the Millie Maker, I'll share that one with you if I win it. Yeah, anybody that has watched this video and I hit the Millie Maker, I'll do something special. That's for sure. We'll have a party. But that's so far-fetched. It's crazy. All right, everybody have a great weekend. Hit that bag. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe button. Good luck. We will see you next Saturday night. Same time, same place. Have a great weekend. Talk to you later. Bye.
Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here.
Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so got to be around at the end to do that.
Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby!
Hell yeah.
Proud of you there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day.
Great work, my man. Great work. Keep putting yourself in position. We'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
10-4, great job, guys. Excellent work, my man. Excellent work. Thank you.
Man, that's awesome. Set out with a goal, we got it here, bud. Thank you very much.
Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud.
Probably killed our deal there. Just feel like I gave one away.
Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job.
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.